About
Oh,
chairman,
oh, oh, oh,
I tell her not forget the Mr. part. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Hey.
Hakiki niweke la kika la mekelo. Boom, silly.
All right. I think we're on live now. Good evening, folks. Once again, G Mike from Belize City. We're expecting our co host, uh, at least two of them, to join us tonight. Gregory, I believe, is indisposed. George Mivich should be coming on. He sent me a report here on some economic scenarios, which he's been threatening to discuss with us for some time now. Mr. Brackett usually comes in a bit late, but he'll be here. Anyway, we have a special guest this evening. We have a gentleman who we've been in touch over the last couple of years. I find him to be progressive, constructive, and well spiritually inclined. Wayne, good evening.
Evening, G Mike.
You're listed as a life coach. Maybe you could give us an idea what that entails.
Well, I love to use the analogy if you're getting a personal trainer in the gym, right?
Uh,
And if you get a personal trainer in the gym, one of the first thing you want to know what part you're there and what you want as a result of having a personal trainer, whether the weight you want to lose or muscle you want to build, right? So while the personal trainer to work on you with your body, I work with you not so much with your body, but the spirit traveling in the body.
Interesting. I want seem like a tall order to me because this spirit, everybody connect with their spirit differently. Don't you think? How do you approach that with the diversity
Well,
of the?
this is what I believe, right? Take a deep breath right now.
Uh-huh.
That source that is breathing you, me, the Muslim, the atheist, the agnostic, it's one source of life. One source of life. It's not there's only one source of life, and that source of life is the infinite source of life, which is God. Whatever name you might know it to be, or whatever source but the fact is there is only one source of life.
All right. You
That
mentioned
source
a
of
word.
life,
Go ahead.
that source of life breeds us,
I have found I have found that when you mention the word God, you lose a big part of your audience. Why is that? Why is it that people don't want to discuss God or anything
Well,
concerning it?
I think because a lot of people that have come forth using the term God, for example, the colonizers, right? The colonizers went in the name of what they call God to India, to Africa, to the Americas, and did what they did. But not because they said they did what they did in the name of God meant that it was actually in the name of God. So that has left a taste in people's mouth and in people's life experience, because if that is God, then I don't want anything to do with God.
But do you find that as a result of that, people tend to throw the baby out with the bathwater and just dismiss everything and say, you know what, well, a part of that are not true, then maybe all of it are not true.
Well, I think one of the discrepancies that I think is that I am going to be blunt and honest with where that which is erroneous, because when our ancestors, for example, were taken away from their country of origin, right, in the name of this thing called God, right, and enslaved, dehumanized, exploited, right, in the name of what they call God, I have to be blunt and say that was definitely not God. Now, God allowed certain things to happen. And this is why, for example, when you talk, let me give you an example. If you ever talk to a Muslim about crusade,
Mm-hmm.
crusade doesn't have a good connotation in the mind of the Muslim, because what the so-called Christians were doing crusades in the Arab countries where you had Muslims, and they were actually slaughtering people,
So
destroying people.
they were on the receiving end.
Right. And this is
Yeah.
why I mean, I personally doesn't necessarily like to embrace what I practice as my faith because I say I'm not a Christian. I'm a spiritual
Let's
person.
let's pause for a minute and bring in our scientists. Yeah, I want to warn you right now. This man is not an easy convert. I have tried
No, no.
months to try to.
Is this my senior?
This is George Myvitt.
Which George
Sci-
Myvitt this? Because I had a George Myvitt that was my senior when I was at Belize Technical College.
Well, I had to look by your name right now, and I say we in A. Moody, and I'm, you know, there's a vague resemblance, but I think you have
And if I
another
got white,
yeah,
well,
it's the
if
same
this,
one.
if this,
I believe
this is
you
the
were in
same,
sixth form 1, and I was in sixth form 2. All right.
Terman, you were with Terman. You were Terman, right?
Yes, Thurman Stewart came down. Yeah, Thurman and
I gotta give enough respect because this man, again, he's one of the few people that are still around that were
Yeah.
pace setters for us as far as where we are today. I mean, I consider him, like I said, my senior. So it's the same George Myvitt.
the
Same-
Man, it's been a while, man.
Same.
Many years, sir. Many years.
Very
I'm
same.
glad that you're alive and well.
Man,
You know,
I'm alive and kicking.
You know,
glad. I'm very happy.
you
Very
said
happy for the reacquaintance, my brother. Very happy.
you said that, George, and that the one thing nowadays, because even when you go to asking about people and you ask them, boy, you have to careful how you ask somebody, how this guy did do, man? You know, here, boy, this man dead last month, you know, just buried a man, and people are just dropping like flies, man. It's amazing. You know, I have this funeral.
Judge, I met with Charlene Rene, not Charlene Rene, Charlene Belisle, Georgia Belisle's sister, right? We
Right.
met like about 3 weeks ago in LA, and I met with Evan Caetano and his wife,
Wow.
Dale Enriquez, and Charlene. Charlene actually pulled up and she sent me a copy of the graduation. You know when they have the graduation program
Yes.
for high school, and I think we graduate in at the sixth farm session, and I graduate in at the fourth farm session, and they had the
Right.
list and name, and G Mike said, I look on the list, and a lot of the people are dead already.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah. Anyway, here comes Leonard Brackett. This is another member of our regular team. We're missing one tonight. I believe Clinton said that Gregory Morrison is traveling. So unless he could get you up on a plane, we probably won't see him this evening. Leonard, good evening and welcome. This is Brother Rian Moody, and I'd like to introduce you guys. I don't know if he might also be your senior. I have to check on that.
Leonard Brackett, well, I'm not sure.
You
I
never
never had
have
how well you know Leonard, George?
Huh?
How well you
Sorry?
know Leonard? Because I'm not sure if the connection,
You mean
Leonard.
How long in owner you know and how old you know?
That 6'2". 62, 6 feet 2. That rake that,
Yeah, you know, send me that China man go spend my money.
Right back and front, man.
So you know that, but you're right. Now double. Only one number could play. So what 6'2", you mean that Leonard Brackett is 6'2"?
No. Wayne was talking to me, I believe.
Yes, he asked you how long you know Leonard Brackett.
Oh, I thought he was
Or if you
asking
know
my
Leonard.
age.
Oh,
But I
no,
think-
no.
I think the way he asked it was, what age you know Leonard Brackett or something. I don't remember. What the question, Wayne?
That like was Leonard in school with us in the same period as he in her generation?
No, young Leonard a leap piece of boy, man. He about where you in your
I
30s
think
now,
Leonard
Leonard?
about 40.
About 40? Boy,
I range about 49, so you don't look too bad.
you love you for it, but you know that. Anyway,
That means I was born after the UDP was created.
What?
You see?
So, Judge, what are you the judge? You the what are you the judge?
I did a police in the G. I basically stayed home, you know, go away, go study and come back, go away and study and come back. So I've been domiciled in Belize.
What's your field of work right now in Belize?
I'm marine biologist. I'm not retired, but I do consultancy work along the line of environment, fisheries, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, no. All right.
And Brackett, you want to talk to Brackett? Brackett,
Yeah, what Brackett do?
get trouble. Leonard,
Yes,
what
sir.
do you do, Leonard? We want to know the clandestine move with it, and why we try to get it secretive. Yeah, I think he worked for the CIA. That's what I think.
That question where the gentleman asked is a very valid question in the ordinary circumstance. But because I wear so many different hats at any given moment, you know, I mean, the question will be more relative to what am I involved with, or what am I doing right now, or something like that. You know, I mean,
Right.
my CV is kind of large, and I don't want to have to go out there to go try to say everything, you know, because I sound like I try get the attention for myself, and I try to get out of that fears. I want to make this conversation and these shows more about public benefit.
Well, just you suggesting the CV so large got me. But no,
it's not worthy. It's not worthy of being recited, you know, for the benefit of the program itself. You know, I mean, it's not fair. It's not.
All right. Speaking of
the
program, Wayne, what we're trying to do, with the deal with issues Belizean, at home and abroad, we believe that maybe we could do something to bridge the gap, bring us closer together. Well, Belizeans at home have to come together at home. The Belizean and the diaspora come together in the diaspora, and the two togetherness come together as one to face the surmounting problems of this this ride into the future. You know what I mean? Because the problems get bigger as we go along, and we need unity if we're to stand strong. I don't know if you want to contribute anything along that line. We could go ahead and discuss some other issues. We have to discuss the economy, because George has been threatening us for weeks with to get into Ali rundown and the economy, and I sent you one of the papers, one of the what is it, George? What would you call this?
I sent a little matrix with where we are.
Okay.
In terms of the economy. I'm trying to pick it up on my phone, but
I see where you shall print it like me. I see where they're at the top of the list. We're at the top of the list per capita. Well, give me a little rundown as to what they said. Did you get it, Leonard? But then you don't use WhatsApp, so we can't get nothing to you. You have to go up on WhatsApp, man. WhatsApp never hurt you. It's not as intrusive as Facebook, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, at some point I will return to it, you know, but as of right now, I'm not inclined to be bothered with it right now.
Understand. All right. Yeah, George. No, give me a little hypnosis, if you will.
Yeah. In fairness to Wayne, Wayne new to the show. In fairness to Wayne, we discussed a range of issues of national import. When I say national, I have to qualify it in the context of a number of you guys are Belizean Americans. So when I say national, I mean the Belizean side of the Belizean Americans, no? And so we have been threatening to just have a little economic review of where Belize is over time. I am widely traveled, Wayne, and gentlemen generally. The last time I checked, I traveled to 37 countries on the planet. I've been, most of that is in relation to my professional life. I worked at Fisheries Department for 27 years. And that has given me the opportunity to travel widely. and to be embedded in a range of experiences that I believe has brought me to a point where I believe that I can contribute, and I've been attempting to contribute. When G. Mike, as you may know, was at one point in the United States, G. Mike opted to come back home. He has been doing a great deal in terms of his voluntary work. Leonard also has been basically 1 foot in Belize and 1 foot in the United States. I have been here. I haven't really left. I feel that Belize is at a juncture, it is a crossroads where we either swim or sink. A part of the work that I've done has been in relation to the political side of things. I am the Secretary General of the Belize Progressive Party. And in that context, I want to say that obviously the condition of Belize troubles me greatly, both in relation to my politics, my professional life, and in terms of my personal perspective and things. So, in terms of this presentation that will take 3 minutes, I see Belize as a country, and Belize people normally say, like they feel it in their bones, this is our very rich country, and it's rich in resources, it's rich in culture, it's rich in where we are as a people. Well over 60% of the population is under 30. That has good implications for development. You have strong and dedicated youths coming up, and it's a matter of pointing them in the right direction and creating the right circumstances. I am of the conviction that Belize could be and ought to be the Switzerland of Central America, but not yet. There's a road to travel, and it could be a long road if we are dedicated to go there. One major, Wayne, I believe you did economics, I believe, at sixth form. I know it was one of the social sciences, I believe. And I want to say, when you look at per capita income as a measure, the per capita income of Switzerland, I believe, is about US $60,000. When you look at the per capita income of Belize, it's actually less than $5,000. So the average Swiss is essentially 12 times better off in financial terms and in circumstances related to the quality of life than Belizeans. All right, just as a start, just a couple statistics. I'll not take more than 60 seconds here, because you guys don't have this in front of you. All right, essentially, I've done a little table, gentlemen, Wayne, and I just wanted to take a picture. Sorry.
Is it the Belize Economic Center?
Sorry,
G. Mike sent it to me. G. Mike sent it to me, the Belize Economic Scenario.
All right, very good. Very good. So you will see, and I will just touch on this very, very briefly. You will see that I've looked at it over time. I've looked at a capsule where information was available, and it was available in the early 2000s. You will see, for example, in 2009.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. In 2009, that sounds like CY.
My mood. Hold on, George. Hold on 1 second.
Right.
Yeah, we're gonna see why. Hello. Are they here?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I don't know if you have it.
CY, the broke up.
You broke up,
Yeah,
and
man,
I
static.
can't scratch it from somewhere too. That's quite distracting.
I'm getting static. I don't know from where.
Yeah, there's a scratchy thing going on
Scratchy
there.
thing there. CY, where you there? Mute your mic for 1 minute, CY.
Okay.
Still a scratch.
Okay, what? Yep.
See why you mute the mic.
You know what? See why mute your mic on for a minute.
Hello?
All right.
Scratching gun.
Yeah.
No. Is CY still there?
Hello?
No, you come back. You come back. You muted for a minute and come back, right?
I think
All
the
right.
scratching might be at his end.
Yeah. See it. He mute now.
All right. In
And
any
scratching
event,
stop.
I just wanted, like I said, in 120 seconds.
But he wanted to say something to us, though.
All right. CY.
See why you may want to say something? Well, gone. All right. So yeah, go there, George.
All right.
If you come,
All right. So
That was
hold on. That's you. See why with that
Wasn't me.
scratching. It was you. It's you. But what were you saying?
no, that's not me, bro.
It is you.
I was off.
Yeah.
No, it
And
wasn't.
so was it. No, you were
I was off.
and so was the scratching.
It wasn't me, bro.
All right.
Give me a second. We gonna straighten it out.
All right. Where you may want? You may say something, man. You may.
I have no reason to be scratching. Hold on 1 second. Hello?
Yeah. Hello.
Hold on.
No, but see why you may come in. You may tell with something, man. What am I to say? Wait a minute. Forget the scratching. What am I to tell we?
I was telling you that I have a major storm. Okay, so I don't know if that's contributing to the that's what I was trying to figure it out now. Because I'm
But
really.
where you the broke up?
A second.
Where you the broke up? Which
You
part
can
you
take
there?
Give me a
Where
minute.
you there?
Let me
You the
change
broke
this out
up?
right now. See, my thing is locking now. Huh? Oh, yeah, they say it's on my line. Let me see. Let me remove myself, brothers.
All right. Where Josh gone now, though? Where Josh gone? Got Josh minute. Get ready for. That scratching is coming from over here. Anyway, let's see what's going on with George. Josh should be coming back. Leonard, you got your mic muted. Unless if you wanted to say something. Anyway, we're new there, right?
Yes,
Are you hearing
yes,
me?
yes. I'm back.
All right.
Yeah, I'm back.
All
I'm
right,
hearing
so-
you.
All right, Leonard, you all
I
right?
put it back on.
All right. So, but George me to get into a presentation and again, but see why me
Mhm.
interrupt. I thought see why me to try to tell with something or the other. But yeah,
all right.
here comes George.
Now,
All right.
now I'm back in.
All right, good. So you may
right.
proceed, George. Go ahead.
Those technical. All right. So I am just
Chad
Now you're
gone
gone again.
So
All
everybody
right,
else that I believe except CY.
At this point, yeah, I see why, and then Gregory Morrison, who is the next guy that comes in. All right, George, you're back.
yeah. It seems as if whenever I try to minimize and bring up the table, it seems as if I'm booted out of the studio. Are you guys hearing me?
We are.
Yep.
Hello. All right.
Yes.
Here we go.
Yep.
All right. So if you look at the first row, Belize per capita income in 2009 was 8,900. Go down to 2021. Per capita income is 4,421 US dollars. You see that?
You
It's-
tell me that has been cut
100% fall.
in half. That has been cut in
Yes.
half.
Yes,
Among which group?
this is
No,
national.
per capita is
This
everything.
is a national picture.
No, but
This is-
I
this-
can't see that.
This is if you add all the goods and services in the nation and divide it by the population. It's a gross measure of financial wellness. You carry Belize the hospital, and Belize may run Wali fever in 2009. And when you check Belize temperature in 2021, fever
High blood
gone
pressure.
up.
Do you Are you gonna
Basically
tell
what it
me
is.
you that would seem to indicate that our standard of living has fallen
That's for sure.
50%?
That's for sure.
But again, I would have to ask you among which group, because most people are still employed. Most people are
It's
still.
it's a national picture.
I hear you. So when you say a national picture, where would this? Because I'm not seeing this. Yeah, we see the homeless people on the street, indeed, but I'm not seeing this. People are making more money than they used to make.
Not really.
Some people,
Not really. Poverty has
some
gone
people.
up. But make I finish first. Make I do me 120 seconds first.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So that's the arithmetic of it. People don't speculate on these issues. These are driven by robust statistical surveys. When you look in the Caribbean, and I just to compare Belize in the Caribbean, when you look at what we had in the Caribbean, one of the countries with the highest standard of living in the Caribbean is Antigua. The per capita income of Antigua in 05, we couldn't get 09, was 18,000 US dollars, 18,300. When you look at Dominica, it was 14,000. When you look at Trinidad, it's 20,000. So in terms of the Caribbean, the countries that I looked at in 09, Belize was definitely, in terms of per capita income, Belize was at the bottom of the heap. When you go right, you look at poverty. In Belize, poverty at the time was 41%. When you look at, you'll see in brackets there what we call food poverty. People can't feed themselves. That poverty has various measures. Food poverty in Belize in 09 was 58%. All right? We never get the statistics for the 2020, etc. But just to show you that that is where we were. If you look at poverty in Belize in 2018, this is United Nations statistics, the poverty rate was 52%. When I speak to people now, they're saying that the poverty rate is more than 60%. That means that 6 in 10 persons in Belize cannot take care of basic needs: food, clothing, education, healthcare. We are in a bad place based on the latest statistics, which is not 2021, 2022.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If you look at where the countries that we were comparing with, where they are, we are really in line with Guatemala and Honduras. Guatemala was poorer than us in 2000. Their poverty rate was 56% in 2000. Guatemala in 2021 was 45.9%. The poverty rate for Guatemala fell. The poverty rate for Belize went up. So you see there's a trend there. All right. So in terms of the Caribbean, Belize is not competitive in terms of per capita income and quality of life. In terms of Central America, yes, Belize, based on these statistics, the only one that we are doing better than is really Honduras, which in 2021 had a poverty rate of 73.6%. All right, so Guatemala, they do better than we, and Big Bad Mexico is also doing better than us. The poverty rate for Mexico in 06 was 43%. In 2021, they brought it down to 28%. So in terms of trajectory, most of the countries in the Caribbean and in Central America, they were reducing poverty and increasing income.
Mm-hmm.
Belize is headed in a downward trajectory. COVID has not helped. COVID has, I believe, in large measure, sent the poverty rate 60 plus. All right. I don't want to go on further. I think that it's just a kind of brief synopsis of where we were. I would want to invite comments in relation to G Mike had some questions. One, I would want to invite comments on what it is, whether or not people acknowledge that things are not good, first of all, and two, what it is that we can do on various sectors. And I am hoping that we could elicit comment in terms of crime, in terms of how we feed ourselves. You remember what George Price basically said, that Belize is, and he wasn't accurate, but it could be the breadbasket of the Caribbean. I have seen some interesting developments, definitely with the PP government, where we have a good Minister of Agriculture, and I think that he's putting things in place, but we are not seeing it in the statistics, and we are not feeling it in the quality of life scenario. So I want to open the floor for interaction, questions, perspective, comments.
Let me,
Mr. Chairman.
yeah, let me say, thank you very much. Let me say that it's interesting the position that Wayne is sitting in right now, which might be a bit different. He is more in a spiritual, economic situation there, while you're on the monetary situation. When that is basically how we're doing with the money, and I don't know. Are you gonna comment on that, or would you like to
Oh yeah,
go from your side?
I,
All right.
I definitely would want to jump in there because George said something which is key, I believe, to where we're going to go. And the thing that he said is that we have to see ourselves as what we would want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we can't picture ourselves as what we want to be, then it's just going to be like on the hamster wheel. And he said something about, do you remember the statement that you said, George, that you saw Belize as the, what was the term that you used? You referenced seeing Belize as the...
As the Switzerland of Central America, one, and certainly
Right.
George Price saw Belize as the breadbasket of the Caribbean.
Right. And those are the concept that he said there. I would want us to go and start there, because for me, right, and I am a firm believer that you have to look at someone's practical needs before you start talking about somebody's spiritual needs.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm hungry, I don't want you to tell me you're going to pray for me. I want you to tell me, how can I actually get some food? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It makes perfect sense, Wayne, because remember, we have Maslow's pyramid of needs. Remember that, right?
So reference to what I'm doing right now, and I'm happy that I'm so glad I'm here, because I'm a firm believer that you got to see your destination before you actually start the journey.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't know where I'm going, I won't know I get there. That makes sense?
Definitely.
So I got to see it. I got to see it first. And if I'm envisioning Belize to be this nation where poverty is being alleviated, I got to first see it first. Does that make sense?
Yes. Perfect sense.
That's where we start. We start with what we would love to see. Now, the question is, where do we go from where we are? So I know where I'm at. I envision where I'd love to be. But then for me, the process of actually seeing it happen is doing what I can with what I have right where I'm at, moving in that direction. And I use what G. Michael is doing as a perfect example, because I was talking to the brother earlier, G, before you came on, and I think what G. Michael has created is a template of what we can do. Because G. Mike has literally taken something that would consider to be nothing and has made something out of it. He did not wait to get all the resources that one would say they need before they get something going. He actually took what he had, start working on it, to make it what it is right now. A lot of time we are more prone to just complain about the situation and the problem and talk about it than saying, okay, this is where we are. What we'd love to do is this. And this is why I do not hesitate no moment when I know something that he might say he's doing to solicit, to publicize, to rally around, because, and I'm not saying this just because he's here, because he know if he said, man, I did do this, I see ways I could help from wherever I'm at to see make it happen. But like you said, Belize is in the state where it's at, and that's something you got to acknowledge. Where am I? But I know where I'm at. But where would I love to go? But what I need to do is what I have right now. Take the 5 loaves and 2 fishes and start with that, rather than wait for somebody to come and give me everything.
All right, make way. Leonard, did you want to offer some input into this? You know, what do you think about what George is saying?
I think what George and the gentleman, your name again, sir, please. Before
Wayne,
Wayne, Mr. Wayne. Last name again?
Moody.
Wayne Moody. Okay, Mr. Moody. From what both of you are saying, I'm 100% in line with everything that has been said so far. I have nothing to derogate from. I mean, to add, yes, I would like to add, but I'm in total agreement with what's been said so far.
All right. What my point of view on this, I find it a gloomy forecast and a gloomy just presentation there. I find it unbelievable that we have fallen 50% in our certainly poverty rate almost, but not in our goods and services that we have available to us. I have not seen that. George, though, I am hoping George is a member of a political party. Usually parties in opposition always see the half empty glass. I don't know if maybe we need not to look at the glass from a different angle, and maybe we're missing some of the things that we do have in this glass. Though, I'm no economist, I'll tell you that. The figures, to me, I don't see them matching with the reality. And George, maybe you can convince me why I'm wrong.
G Mike, there's a difference between an opinion and facts.
Right.
What I'm giving you is hard data. These are not my views and opinions.
Yeah, but based on what?
These
Whose
are hard
research?
data.
Whose research? Who?
These the World Bank, G Mike, and I would advise and encourage when Mr. Brackett and yourself to Google World Bank Belize report. Every year the World Bank does a report of Belize, and if you see that report, G Mike, you will know that what the World Bank is basically saying is that Belize's prospects of recovery are dire.
Are you convinced that there's no agenda in there anywhere?
By the World Bank?
Right, by the World Bank.
No,
also.
what agenda would World Bank have?
Well, they might feel the need to put us in a certain category there that would boost their help or not help of our situation. I don't know.
Can I
Mr.
say
Chairman?
something?
Yes, Leonard. Who's speaking?
Me.
I did respond when you first asked the question by lending full support to Mr. Moody's perspective and input, as well as that of Mr. Mabit, because I look at both sides of that particular perspective of each of these gentlemen, and I can assure you that both of them are on target as far as the statistical analysis are concerned. But I would like to go a little further and to explain to you why is it that I had said so many times in the past to the point where you thought I was overdoing it. I try to, make it sound like, well, Belize is worse than it really is. I would like to explain to you why I tend to gravitate in that direction. Now, with what Mr. Mabit has just put out there as raw statistics and what Mr. Moody has articulated in terms of, his perspective and his understanding of what's going on and the hope that we would have for our country, I would like to say, sir, that yes, I am of the opinion that Belize is a lot worse than the statistics bear out to be, and I'll explain to you why. And the panel and the rest of those who are listening, why. First of all, there's a thing that you call factoring when you're doing statistical analysis, and when you're using numbers that are created by other statisticians. You have to understand the significance of factoring in order to come a little closer to the realities. Most of these raw numbers do not include factoring. And the sole reason why is because factoring is an element of statistical analysis that lends itself for subjectivity. And these people like to be able to say, well, okay, well, I'm dealing with the hard numbers, and therefore it doesn't have any factoring in there, or it doesn't have any input that will divert or diverge from what the science and the understanding of economics would bear out. And I would say that, for example, most of the knowledge that we get from our Statistical Institute of Belize, the World Bank, and other places, because they deal with the raw numbers and they don't deal with the factoring, they always tend to err or make mistakes on the side of caution. And they're not as dire as the actual on-the-ground scenario would be. From 1972 until today's date, every year, I do an analysis of the country from the educational perspective, from the economic perspective, from the crime perspective. In other words, I do a general analysis of where the country is at the time when I first started it, and I use it for political agendas at the time until today date, and I'm still using it for political agendas at this time. And that is the reason why I'm able to comfortably say what I say sometimes, even at the point of sounding ludicrous or maybe sounding like I'm exaggerating, because I know the numbers that we're being given has no factoring. And as a result, a lot of people who should be involved in that analytical parameter that is being presented are left off the counting, and therefore the numbers are not what they're supposed to represent. Our country is in much less shape than the politicians would like us to know, than the economists would actually portray. That I mean, it takes the persons on the ground. It takes the persons dealing with these matters on a one-to-one basis with people to realize how messed up some people really are. When I say to you that we have people going to sleep at night hungry, at 68% and growing, is no joke.
All right. Let's hear from Wayne. Can Wayne make us something for say? Go ahead, Wayne.
One of the things that I know that unless we face reality, we can't really solve a problem. And one of the things that I do know is that the spirit of the people of Belize is strong. And I think what we see is the fact that because the people of Belize have strong spirits, even the situation that they're going in, they're being insurmountable amidst the situation and circumstances. But I think it's a disservice when we don't really want to say this is what it is. And when we talk about the World Bank, when we talk about these statistics, like George was saying, this is something that he probably conjured up. This is something that that come up from what the research has shown. And what Leonard was saying is that even that research is not truly as accurate as it should be. So
on the worst side.
The question is, we agree now, whether how far we see it or how close it is, Belize is not in the place that we would want Belize to be.
Oh,
Mhm.
Whatever that is.
that is obvious. I mean, we would like
The
to see.
commonality is okay. We know we're not where we would want to be. The question is, how do we get to where we would want to be?
No,
And like I was
see,
saying earlier, we got to see ourselves where we want to be first. I got to
listen,
know the destination before I start on the journey.
I hear you. I hear all of you. My question though, because I hear all three of you agreeing on a picture that's painted quite gloomy. Um, what do we do with that? With those statistics, do we lose hope? Do we just sit down now and wait for the end to occur, for the sky to crash? How do we turn this around? Given if it is how you say it is, and let me go on record right now, I don't agree. I don't agree it's that gloomy.
You don't. Well. Do you agree with the statistics though?
Well, you're saying you draw these up and these are brought down. There are a lot of things that are presented to us, and we really don't know the full story behind why they are given to us like that. I believe that you're not
Mr. Chairman, can I ask you a
you're not
question, sir?
faking this. Let me finish my point though, if you don't mind. I don't
Uh,
believe, sir. May I, if you don't mind?
I presume that from your
But may I finish my point,
charity
sir?
work you're doing in the community,
Sir, sir,
laudable
sir,
and
sir, sir,
very
sir,
ingratiating.
sir.
And
Why can I not
you
finish
have
my
come
point,
across some
Mr.
people.
Mr. Brackett? May I
Is
finish
somebody-
my point,
my
please,
mic
sir?
muted or is the chairman?
May I finish?
I'm
No,
not
no,
hearing
no.
you.
We're
I see
talking
you
together.
articulating, but I'm not hearing, sir.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not sure that the chairman is that
I was trying to
Mr.
ask a
Bucket is
question, I don't
hearing
know
you,
what-
Mr. Chairman. I don't know.
but I'm not muted. No, I'm not muted at all. Let me go.
Maybe it's
Are you
system,
hearing
I'm
me,
not sure.
Joe?
I
Are
don't know.
you
I think
hearing?
I'm off. There's a discussion or something going on.
No, I think your headphone is
Are you
not in.
hearing the? Are you hearing the
Hello?
chairman, Mr. Brackett?
I wasn't hearing the chairman when he was speaking, and I can't hear
Are you
anyone else.
hearing the chairman?
You not hear anybody. I think he takes out his headphones when he's
Hello?
speaking.
Am I still?
Hello.
G Mike has the floor. G Mike has the floor, Mr. Brackett.
So that means he wasn't hearing anything I was saying. You're muted now, Leonard. You're back
Hello?
on. Do you have your
Yeah, I
headphone
can
in,
see the
sir?
chairman speaking, but I can't.
But do you have your headphone in? Do you
Yeah, I
have
think
your-
it might have been a problem with my headphone.
Yes, obviously.
Yeah, it is. It was.
So did he hear you, Mr. Chairman?
I
Obviously
did not hear. Oh, sorry. I did not heard any of the conversation that was taking place from the time I saw the chairman moving his mouth, articulating something until now. So I'm blind. I'm blind to all of what took place since then.
Okay. Can you hear me
I was.
now?
Yes, sir. I can.
You can. All right. Let's
And
wait.
it was on my side that I had a fault.
All right. Yeah.
Can I
Okay.
finish what I was trying to say, or was
Or
the
can I
discussion
finish?
beyond that at this point?
But can I finish
I-
what
I
I
would
was trying to
suggest-
say?
I would suggest that maybe Mr. Brackett, we ask the chairman to kind of give us a synopsis of what he was saying for your benefit.
Oh, okay. Yes, sir. I would appreciate that
before
very
you
much.
come in, no?
Yes, sir. I
All
would
right.
appreciate that very much.
Okay. All right. I'm saying that statistics, I don't believe that George just come up with this out of nowhere. I'm sure he did some research and went to reliable
Mhm.
sources to get this. But I don't agree with this. I don't agree that we are half where we were in 2009. I don't see such a drastic drop. Now, whatever the reasons for them bringing up these figures, I don't know. I don't see the situation as so gloomy. I see more hope in it. And let me go to Wayne's point of view, where we have discussions on this matter. Bob Marley sang a song that he took straight from the Bible. And it says, "Not one of my kind shall sit on the sidewalk and eat your bread or beg your bread." I believe that if anything that's wrong with Belize is a moral uh, um, poverty, more so than even a physical poverty. But you are pointing to a physical poverty as things being that dire. I do not believe it. I'm in Belize. I work with the impoverished areas of Belize. I see. I don't see that steep slide, if you will, in economic conditions. I might be wrong, but that is my point of view. Um,
Well,
Well,
Mr.
you
Chair.
had
Oh, sorry,
I think
sorry.
Mr. Brackett,
Speaking over somebody? Yes, yes, sir.
Mr. Brackett is
Yes,
here.
sir.
Did he hear you, Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
I
sir. I
don't.
heard it. I heard everything.
All
I heard
right, all
everything
right.
you
So,
said.
Mr. Brackett,
I was in the middle then of trying to respond to what he had started, the first part of what he had started articulating, and I was attempting to say that what Mr. Mabit is saying comes from hard facts, whether we like to believe it or we have a different opinion or not, is irrelevant in terms of the real scenario. That is that the scenario where people are actually living what they're living, and this survey representing what it is saying that the people are living. There's no way that we can stipulate that our country is in a better position today after having gone through COVID, after having gone through an economic, man-made economic disaster before COVID, after the hurricane, and after all the other previous hurricane or problems that we had with our economy, where a lot of our stuff was not, we couldn't get some of the corn, we couldn't get some of the beans, we couldn't get a lot of different things as a result of some of the previous smaller hurricane. They were small in terms of physical damage, but crop damage wise, they put us back. And these are some of the things that are used for the measurement of the economic well-being of a country. So in many of those instances, it wasn't because, well, people weren't trying to make a living or services weren't being rendered or all these things were still happening. We were still living and making the best of the situation. The fact is that we were going backwards, which is what the numbers are representing. And we could have been going forward despite all the differences and the disadvantages that we have had as a small country with a small size economy, had we had politicians who were honest and forthright with the people and work on behalf of the people and not necessarily work on behalf of themselves, which is why we find ourselves in the situation we are today. Not because better couldn't have been had.
Yeah. You know what bothers me though, and I must say this because both yourself, Mr. Brackett, and George are what you might call opposition supporters.
Mr. Chairman, please take this issue out of the political arena, sir.
Hold on, sir. What do you mean? You
It's
cannot.
not just you. It's not just UDP people are starving or few people are starving. Let's keep this stuff
hold on,
in context.
Hold on. Well, yeah. Let's put it in context. Let me say what I'm saying here. I find that you can find anything you want if you look for it, and it's what you want to find. The unfortunate thing in the political situation that we have in Belize is that if you're either bigging up the country if your government is in, or damning the country if your government is out. Am I wrong? Is that not how it works in Belize?
Sir, but your panel of which you are the chairman, and our intent and objective, as we have stipulated before, should rise above the politics of the day, whether it's PUP or UDP, any kind of P whatsoever.
Sir.
And so I took umbrage at the point when you said to Mr. Mabit earlier that because he is of a different political persuasion than the government position,
right.
it means then that maybe he might be taking numbers that are suspect.
The worst numbers that you can find.
Yeah. You know, I mean,
you can take
sorry.
to that. I don't have no problem with that.
For the members of this panel that I'm a part of,
yes.
I think we're serious-minded people, and I don't think that, which is why I begged you a little earlier to please take the matter out of the political arena as take us perspective, and let's hopefully think that we are dealing with this subject matter not from a political perspective, but from a humanitarian perspective.
I have been one who has been preaching for the longest that we should take all things out of the political
It
arena.
cannot be done.
But this
Cannot be
here,
done, sir.
sit now, hold on, no, because
Can I jump
this
for,
is
can
it.
I
You have
jump in for a second?
you have an is and you have an ought. We know what ought to be, what we happen to know what is. All right. So when I say that, it's not that far fetched that you think I'm here trying to malign you or judge my in any way. I have big respect for both of you guys. But that it is what it is. I mean, if I am just go ahead,
No,
Wayne.
I was just referring to the specifics of what we are discussing right now,
Right,
sir. I
right,
mean,
All right.
right.
you
Me
know,
too.
there's room for
Me-
all of the other stuff, you know.
Me too. Me too. I
A
was
little
me-
bantering here and there, you know. I mean, a little. You know,
correct.
but I'm saying that
Let me jump.
to impugn Mr. Mavitt's effort and put it in the context of a political perspective is not giving justice to the man's effort, you know, because
Okay.
he could have come up with a different perspective that would
Your
have
point.
been more
Your point.
the maligning type.
End the point, no man. End the point, no sir. Your point is taken.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah,
sorry.
Wayne, go ahead, Wayne. Go ahead, Wayne.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, can I go after Mr. Wayne?
Please.
All right. After
Go ahead,
Mr.
Wayne.
All right. I know our heart is Belize, right?
Amen.
But I would love to give another perspective reference to what's happening globally. Because I live in America right now, right? And reference to the economic situation, things are tight and things are tighter, you know? And you know, they always say when America sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold, right?
Yes.
And if you want to talk about what's happening economically right now in America, it's dire. I mean,
Crazy.
things are,
Crazy.
I mean, some people are surviving, but honestly, on a large scale, like things are getting worse economically. I mean, so if you want to look at what's happening, let's say in America, and trickle down to say what's happening in Belize, it stands to reason that we're in a place that we're not supposed to be for sure. But as far as the political aspect of it, that's another story. But thinking about it, where we are in America and what people are making in America and the sustaining as far as economics in America, it's getting worse.
Yeah, all right. George?
Yeah. That point made by Mr. Moody, I think, is a point well made that you can't pass judgment on Belize in a vacuum. Belize has to be evaluated with respect to other nations. And that is why in my presentation, I was comparing Belize to other nations in Central America and the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You might think that I'm a fast sprinter. When I was growing up and I used to go watch football at Barracks, I used to go jump fence at Barracks. I may think that Belize could have beat the world. But that was my universe. But now as you get exposure, you realize that Belize is Belize. We are in a certain league, but not the big league. And so this is the same thing that I'm trying to say in relation to our situation. G. Mike, Mr. Chairman, have you heard of a gentleman by the name of Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I have heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, yes, I
Neil
have.
deGrasse Tyson is one of the most brilliant scientists and one of the most brilliant narrator of science. And one of the things that he says that sticks with me is that the thing with good science is that it is true whether you believe it or not. And so, Mr. Chair, I respect your point that there might be an alternative reality. And the point made that Mr. Brackett made, I really think that it is a point well made, where Mr. Brackett is basically saying that if you're doing statistics, you have to discuss the parameters. When the World Bank does its work, because I was the head of the fisheries department at the time T, they evaluate all the sectors. And what they do is a draft report that they send back to the government of Belize to say, we need your comments. Does this comport with the reality as we see it in terms of the evaluation? And you know what? normally there's no constructive or there's no substantive response by the government of Belize. Why is this? Because the information that the World Bank is presenting is the information that it has gleaned from the government's own figures.
Mm-hmm.
Say, I want to say that in abeyance to G. Mike, and certainly where Mr. Brackett is saying that if you are quoting statistics, then you need some qualifiers. When I was at the University of the West Indies in the early 80s, up to 85, I graduated in 85. There's a colleague that I had there. She was doing nursing. She actually went on to work with the Caribbean Development Bank. She never did her nursing career. She came to Belize about 3 years ago, before COVID. And when she came to Belize, she was surprised because the statistics that the Caribbean Development Bank has, she thought that she would have seen people in the streets dying. She thought that she would have seen people people on the streets of Belize without clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And so she made the point, and to G. Mike's credit, she made the point that there is the formal economy
Mm-hmm.
that is available to the statisticians of the World Bank,
Amen.
and then there's
And
the
then,
informal economy.
right on.
The point has
When
been,
you meld the two together, is when you get the
point
trouble.
has been made that the informal economy is as much as 40% of the formal economy.
Mm-hmm.
When those boys from the police force and the Mennonites are landing drug plane,
Mm-hmm.
that does not go through the formal economy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
When the
okay.
Chinese are steep in human trafficking,
Let
that
me
does not go through the formal economy.
let me
So,
let me say
to the
let-
point that G. Mike is making, that the statistics is only as strong as the input end. So it's not perfect, but it's the only thing that we have to work with. At some point,
It's a lot
the
worse.
World Bank will need to get a handle on the
let
formal
me
economy.
let me say something 1 minute. Leonard, I think you need to mute your mic when you're not speaking, because when you're speaking, we let you speak. I don't think a judge requires a chorus, man, and it's kind of condescending with a little laugh and thing, and just amen and whatnot.
Cool.
Let the man speak, man. No, but anyway, go ahead. He never hurt you because
Yeah, All
you-
right, G. Mike. So I was just making that point, and maybe we should ask that when you're not a speaker, you mute your mic, and I guess maybe that go across the board. I just wanted to say though that in terms of the Prime Minister's own spiel, his own perspective, I saw him on the news. It could have been this morning, and it may have been a delay from the previous night's news, in which he was saying essentially that he believes that we will take down the debt to GDP ratio to a more robust area. Generally speaking, you do not want your debt to GDP ratio to be more than 50%. The debt to GDP ratio of Belize, where you whole and where you make, Belize, if you add up all the goods and services, we have a $3.4 billion economy. The debt to GDP ratio, the last time we looked at it, was 134%. It means that our debt is 3.4 billion plus 34%. So it's near to $4 billion. So we owe more than the economy is worth. Is this a time for gloom and doom? No, sir. G. Mike, gentlemen, when Ford Motor Company have over 400,000 employees. Belize know how to turn around. How do we turn around Belize? One of the things that we should look at is foreign direct investment. I know they talk politics, they talk statistics. One of the things that happened under the UDP is that foreign direct investment plummeted catastrophically under UDP. What the party in government is doing right now is to try to instill confidence to the effect that more foreign direct investment comes to the shore of Belize. So imagine at the point where foreign direct investment was at a peak, it was about 400 million Belize dollars per annum. At the point that the PUPs looked at it, they said that the foreign direct investment had plummeted to about $20 million. I'm making the point that if we get back foreign direct investment up to $1 billion Belize dollars, you know how much people it could put to work, you know the income that it could generate, you know how much houses could be built. There's a direct relationship between crime and poverty.
Let me ask something.
So G Mike, you know, it's not all doom and gloom.
All right, I appreciate that, because that's what I was hearing for a while.
Sure.
And you talk about direct investment. There's
Direct foreign investment.
direct foreign investment. Direct foreign
Yes, sir.
investment. There's a saying on the streets when we used to hustle, and it says, "All money, they're not good money. All money, they're not good money." In other words, you hustle and you see some money to come, some money you have to pass up. Some of that direct foreign investment comes to Belize and we don't get nothing from it, and they get everything from us. And maybe we need to look at how the government has in place the infrastructure to protect us from the parasites, if you will, and those who are the vultures and the bloodsuckers. You know, I don't know. And again, you made the point about the money that comes in that they can't conk. That the drug money and whatnot, planes landing and whatnot, informal economy. That's not a part of that. I don't know if that's what's keeping us afloat, but I tend to agree with the lady that came and did not see what she would have felt she would have seen by just reading those statistics. And that was my point, that I think those statistics are misleading, and I don't think it's a no.
Well,
when the prime minister gets up and well, we know what the politicians will say, and if they're in office is never good, if they're out of office is never bad. You see what I'm saying? Or if they're in office is never bad, if they're out of office is never good. Let me put that the other way
Mr.
around.
Chairman?
Yes.
Like I'm mute the mic.
Okay. The problem Belize has is one of governance, and I keep repeating it at nauseam to the point where it sounds like sometimes I'm getting crazy because I'm hearing echoes in my own brain with the same information back and forward, and nobody else outside of my head apparently is hearing what I'm trying to convey. We have a case where in the Santa Elena land jurisdiction area of Corozal in Belize, we had a group of people came in with the intention of putting up a mega hotel and casino. And our government facilitated them with over $7 million input to that project. They took our money, they did a little cut and grub type operations on the site. They filled up a little here, a little there, and the project never came into fruition. That was during the Musa administration. During the UDP administration, these are monies that are gone from our treasury that will never come back, of course. We had all these cases that were lost to the Dragon of Chichester. Hundreds of millions of dollars that could have been made available for poverty alleviation in our country, or for moving our country into a higher bracket in terms of the poverty scale and being in a better situation. It is not just only these two examples that I pointed out. There are so many others where the government is paying millions and even hundreds of millions of dollars. I remember one instance, 78 millions was quoted by a government official as being paid out for bogus land transactions. Getting land for the government, turning around and selling it, and then turning around and taking it back, and then turning around and compensating the new owners. I mean, there's a whole lot of shenanigans that goes on in our country that bleeds the treasury of our country. And when these guys say that the PUP would look at the UDP and say during the election campaign, oh, all you guys are doing is building streets, people can't hit streets and infrastructure. What's happening today? They allocated $3 million for poverty alleviation and almost $200 million for infrastructure. What the hell is going on? I mean, I could go on ad nauseam. I have the records, and these are things that all of us probably remember. So I'm just repeating what has been that got us to where we are today. We don't have the money. Oh, sorry. I'll leave it at that.
Go ahead.
No, I'll leave it at that, sir. I'll leave it at that.
No, I have to get the permission of the chairman to come in.
Mr. Chairman, I'm finished, sir.
If I have
I'm muted. No man. You just Robert's rules. If one man done, the next man go in and come out, man. We basically are.
So I just wanted to say, Mr. Chairman, that in relation to where we are and where we could be, I think the point made by Mr. Brackett in relation to corruption is really a very, very relevant point. When we talk about implementation of UNCAC, I don't know who will read the draft or who will read the United Nations Charter on corruption. But really, if you were to implement what we call it domesticate UNCAC, that would do away with 90% of the corruption that is endemic in this country. And it has positive implication for development, because one of the issues, this whole John Saldivar issue that is being flagged, you know that 90% of the foreign direct investment that comes to Belize is a function of American citizens coming here to invest. And when they get a report that basically says that the US government has taken a precipitate step against a former minister of government, there are investors that will say, no, I am going to the Bahamas and I will go to places that corruption will not undermine my investment. And so one of the things that we have to look at, gentlemen, is we have to look at the structures and the processes in place. We have to implement UNCAC. I hear the current government basically saying that they will come up with their own version of UNCAC. And I'm saying, well, then you need to tell me what that is. Because the PUP version of UNCAC, in my view, is PUP lottery. Remember when you go buy Bolido? When you're old enough to remember when you go buy Bolido for your mom, your grandma, and boy, you tell you go buy a 100 piece of a lottery. But the sheet itself only got probably 25 numbers, and the Chinaman write it at back. It's illegal and it's irregular. And in my view, I don't think that business as usual, where the PUP will come with one version, will cut it. It can't. If you read through the legislation that the United Nations has put together, no, you can't shortcut it. It's a fantasy. And this is one of the reasons why we don't have UNCAC yet. So development means that you have to put in place UNCAC, some UNCAC response, and you have to be sensible. And give a short story. Gentleman Wayne, I was in charge of shrimp farming in Belize at one point. That's a part of my training, aquaculture. Aquaculture started in 84. We start with 10 ponds, like 10 acres, and we grow it up to 7,000 acres. When you add up all the fishes that are landed in Belize, it's about 1.5 million pounds. All the lobster counts fish. When you added all the shrimp and fishes that are farmed, it comes up to about 30 million pounds. You understand me? And that 30 million pounds translated into over $100 million worth of revenues. I sat in the fisheries department along with one of my colleagues, my assistant, and with legislation to say, you have to manage this thing like one baby. You can't expose them to the elements. You catch cold, you catch pneumonia, and the next thing you know, baby dead. One of the shrimp farmers was the greatest producers of beers and soft drink in this country. And his mentality was that he wants no regulations of the industry. He, yes, sir. He, along with other big people, I think it's kind of capitalist nature. They don't want any scrutiny. Actually, what they did, they drove up their own legislation, and they worked through the politicians. Politician was the former government. You know what happened? We wanted to regulate the industry because shrimp, 90% of what we produce are shrimp. Shrimp that were invertebrate. When you did some science, and these invertebrates have very primitive immune systems. So every 3 to 5 years, you have a major disease event. At the time when Belize was at its pinnacle, $120 million worth of revenues and foreign exchange account of Belize, we advised very strongly that you don't allow shrimp trucks from the Mexican side to come into Belize, because Belize was the only place that did not have a certain viral disease. Well, the same people that were pushing this legislation actually went against the advice of the Fisheries Department. You gentlemen know what has happened to the shrimp industry? It's crushed. Soft drink maker dominated along with the political players in this country. And you know what the impact was? It's poverty. After Williamson closed down, Williamson Sewing Factory closed down, they were employing 700 to 800 people. You know where those people ended up? A lot of them ended up at Nova Shrimp Farm, and a lot of them ended up at the shrimp farms in the south. And they were not making what they were making at Williamson. They were making double and triple what they were making at Williamson. You see? So I just wanted to narrate the point that if you have sensible policies and you back it up with legislation and you're acting at the national interest and not the interest of the usual suspects, then you could have development and you could have an improved quality of life for our people, the working class people.
Yeah, I think that is
Yes,
common sense. I think that is basic common sense right there. And I think there are two things that mess us up. Number one, of course, is corruption. Okay, if we didn't have corruption, we'd be in a much better position. We all, I think, will agree to that. Number two, that I think instead of courting this direct foreign investment, which is all right, we should, our diaspora people, because we have many people in the diaspora that are able to invest in Belize, should come up, get together with each other, and then do some investing in Belize. Then we're working together for our own cause. That I think so. I think a lot of times the foreign investors come in, and the same corruption that happens is that they sign off on paper and then give them a concession for so many years, and then you go to Placentia right now, you see all the big resorts, all the fantastic buildings that's up there, but then don't pay where they have to pay to Belize. Then when they make that for them. In fact, most of what they make stay abroad when they get their all-inclusive packages and whatnot when they sell. But the person who signed the contract turns out to be the only one that comes up after that kind of deal. So I think we understand what that situation.
With your permission, I wanted to go to Mr. Brackett after I make this comment that, you know, I said foreign direct investment, Mike, Mr. Chairman, and gentlemen, because it's not that we do not have wealthy individuals and corporations in Belize, but the wealthy individuals in Belize will invest their money in dry goods and grocery stores and fried chicken outlets. It will not be invested in the productive sector. You see, if you look at the economy and the contribution of tourism, and you look at the contribution of commerce, it's major relative to agriculture. The people that will invest in agriculture and the non-traditional areas would be the foreigners. One. Two, when you look at our people and you say they're rich, we do not even have a capital market. You understand? And so Belize is poor in many ways, including in terms of indicators such as a capital market. I wanted to ask Mr. Brackett and Wayne, really, do you believe that the diaspora would have the capacity and the will to realize that Belize is a potential destination for investment?
Mr. Wayne, you want to go on that one, or can I jump in?
Let me go, right? I speak first of myself, right? Because I think that's where I need to start. And reference a trajectory of, say, having my own business right now, which is a business that has been just since 3 years. And my personal vision is to see this work that I'm doing become something that is like a multi-million-dollar business, right?
Mhm.
With the intention that, man, I love Belize. I love Belize so much. And I know G Mike will tell you this, because I remember 2 years ago when he and I started talking, I was telling him, man, my love for Belize. And he gave me a correction, and he told me this. He said, Belize is a state of mind. Because no matter where you are, if you're thinking Belize, then you are in Belize. Because I've not been home for like almost 20 years. But I can tell you I've not been there physically, but as far as my substance, it's been in Belize. So coming from a personal perspective, I mean, I'm not asking anybody for anything per se to say, come back to Belize and want anything, but I'm looking at how I can create the substance to where I can truly make a contribution to my country, and I speak first as myself. So that's where I'm at. And I mean, with time, you're going to see it. And G Mike could tell you, reference to what I've been doing. I mean, you know, we say one cocoa full basket, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've been the last 3 years established the business that I have, which is Wayne Moody Life Coaching. And I continue to expand the base of my work as I work with my clients from all over. But the vision that I have for my own life is see this thing grow to where I maybe might say be able to give $500 right now. I'll be able to write checks for $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
So from a personal perspective. Now, reference to talking with other folks as a part of the diaspora, right? Let me tell you something that is being initiated right now as I speak. Over a month and a half ago, Dr. Greenidge, who was in my class, Dr. DePaz, two amazing doctors that are working in the States, right? We were just talking like this, and they're like, man, we really want to make a contribution to Belize that is more impacting. What can we do? And Egbert and Javier says, man, why don't you pull together our friends, alumni from Belize Tech College, right?
Mm-hmm.
So over the last 2 months, we've been meeting every other Saturday, looking at initiatives that we can contribute to help wherever we are. Now, individually, been making contributions individually. So we're looking now at initiatives that we can look at as a group, right? One of the things that came up in our first discussion was the technical skill that we have in the country and where it's at as compared to where it was.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the person that was actually on one of the meetings, his name is Ronald Stewart. He said he has a brother who went to engineering and technical. And one of the hardest thing for him to find today in is technically trained, skilled people with ethics, reference to his trade right now in Belize.
Yes.
Now, like I said, we're talking about what the diaspora can do, right? I can tell you what a small group of us are considering doing. One of the things that we said in the last meeting that we had, we were going to get in touch with whoever is actually running what has now been technical, originally know what it is, and find out how can we help in any way with what they're doing there right now, practically.
Mm-hmm.
We have a meeting this Saturday, and George, you're a former BTC student. I'd love you to come into that meeting. We're looking at what we can do, and we were brainstorming practical things that we can do right where we are. somebody mentioned like some of the places like the VTech that they have right now. Something as simple like an air condition they might have a need for that they need there. And for someone in the States, that's something that is going to be nothing to say, hey, we can send that. Someone might say, well, certain teachers in a certain institution might just need, like, say, computers. That's something that you can do practically to help people right where they are right now. So as far as the diaspora, I speak as a person that is currently living away from home, but I'm as much as home as possible. Honestly, COVID came, and since COVID came, I have been to Western Union more than I've ever been. So there are people like myself, but as we come together, and there, I mean, see our efforts together. I can tell you people like Vanessa Jenkins Young, right? Who are actively doing stuff, contributing. But as we come together more, right? There is so much that we can do. So, but Mike.
Excellent.
Leonard, you were gonna go?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man, go ahead.
Yes, sir. As far as the people in the diaspora being able to help or wanting to help, I wouldn't even consider it to be a question needing to be asked, because there are so many diasporans who have, over the years, come back to Belize, retired to Belize, brought their wealth and knowledge and everything else that they have with them to Belize, to become involved in business. But I don't recall any of them that I know of that has been given any 10, 15, 20-year concession on anything. I recall them being looked upon as a potential prey. So if you want to do business in Belize, you got to hook up with such and such and such who will guide you through the process and who will do your legal services for you. And as a result, then your proposition or your proposals may have a possible chance of success in terms of getting it off the ground. Not to say the least about the technical support that you will need and the employees that you will need. And then to find out that potential employees also are the people who are targeting you because they're the closest to you and know your business or know what's going on, and try to, do harm to you because they begrudge you of material things. I mean, Belize is in a bad state, a bad place, and somehow or another, if we don't persist with the little that we are doing, hoping that things will change, it will just only continue to get worse. I personally can say again that I'm involved with some farmers, trying to help them to expand their operating base. I'm involved with other business people, writing vouchers for food and for different things and giving them out to people, and supporting the economy of Belize basically as much as I can. I have a lot of different programs that are sheltered under my foundation that I try to do these various activities, and all of it relates to how to help Belize and Belizeans to have a better future.
Yeah.
And so, I'll go on about nauseam and maybe go into details, but I don't really care to get into the details because sometimes, like I said, it lends itself for people to look at you as a potential victim. And I'm not here to be playing a victim to nobody. I'm here to try and help those who have been victimized.
Let me just say that I don't want to present myself as being naive. I am not gonna fool myself into thinking everything hunky dory. We should all join together and sing Kumbaya. But I think I find also too with your presentation and idea that is kind of looking on the gloomy side, man. There's something I'm just a bit more optimistic. I just like to be more optimistic and look at the hope as opposed to listen. Believes when it comes to ethics, we're so lacking. When it comes to doing things the right way, even keeping our word, discipline, we're so lacking. And we certainly I think most people understand that the problem is that we have to start raising children that are better, that will become better adults. And I used to tell them all the time when I worked for the police that when I had all the complaints and whatnot, if you want better police officers, start raising better children. If you want a better community, a better society, a better Belize, start raising better children. And I think a part of it will have to be instilling in them hope and not harping on the desperate condition that we face ourselves in. It's not good indeed, but we spend too much time lamenting. That's all I'm
Um,
saying.
yeah, with your permission, Mr. Chair.
You want, my please.
Yeah, I just wanted to I need to make the point that when we look at the diaspora and opportunities for investment, I think you have to look at it at various levels. There's a kind of individual um, level, and then there's a
Right,
kind of
right,
collective small scale investment level,
right.
and then of course there's a kind of medium and then the large scale investment level. In relation to my interaction with some people from the diaspora who have now kind of become domiciled in Belize, um, they had acquired some land. And when I said they, it's really one family. Um, 20 years ago, there was more public land than there is now. Currently, there's almost zero public land available for anybody, including people from the diaspora. Um, I'm making the point that at the high end of investment, shrimp farming very expensive, and aquaculture in general. It's why you call capital intensive ventures. You break even shrimp farm. I did my thesis was on the analysis of if your grandpa left you $1 million, and I did my thesis in my postgraduate in Scotland. If your grandpa left you $1 million and you want to invest in shrimp farming, what should you do? My analysis basically showed that a break-even shrimp farm at the time was about 700,000 Belize dollars for 40 acres of shrimp farm. That is not even a small farmer. $700,000 is a lot of money, certainly for working class people and even for upper working class people. All right. So, in a sense, aquaculture is not for individuals. It's for corporations. All
14
right.
people, 50,000 apiece.
All right. So a corporation there. So I guess it begs the question of whether or not the diaspora has the political will to organize into a kind of investment corporate unit to look at agriculture / aquaculture as a possible area of investment.
Can it come back?
Sorry?
Can the shrimp industry come back?
Yes, I was actually working with one of my colleagues up to September. It has shifted GMIC. It has been wiped out by disease, and it's coming back slowly. Everybody seemed to have gone. Hello, you guys. All right,
I hear you. Everybody's here. That smoke
all right.
just there's something there. Yeah.
Where it is now, GMIC, is in the old days we used to have these big ponds that were 20-25 acres. The problem with those ponds is that they were hard to manage. When shrimp or a million shrimp have a disease, you don't know until it's too late. So the industry has gone to small scale ponds where you're right on top of your shrimp and you could monitor them more closely. All right, it's more expensive to produce a pound of shrimp like that. But if you work your economics right and you work your production practice right, you can be competitive. It's a competitive business. It's export oriented. So
you get
you have
healthier
to be-
shrimps.
yeah, you have to be competing with Honduras and Guatemala and El Salvador and China and all the rest of them. So you have to be on top of your game. So it can happen, but you need to be sensible technologically and you need to be sensible management wise. All right. In relation to the point made by Wayne, where individuals would want to invest or individuals want to volunteer to assist. When specifically in relation to technical, one of my colleagues who garnered a little bit of wealth in the United States, he had a scholarship at Wesley College, and so he was putting a couple people through Wesley College, and so I could really see something like that as maybe one of the options that a BTC alumni diaspora, could be interested in. Where there's education, there's books. So, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Where there's education, no, books are almost old school. Where there's education, there's computers. So, so I think there's further there to definitely interact. What I would say, and I think to some extent G-Mike mentioned that tax holidays, they're development incentives and they're abused, but that's a feature for the government to make sure that it's not abused. What I think should happen, Wayne, that people like yourself who may want to come home or invest, you don't have to come home, but you want to invest, I believe. I think that there needs to be something in the schedule for tax holidays and development incentives to say that if a Belizean from the diaspora wants to invest, he should be getting tax breaks on anything above $5,000 investment. But that's lobbying. As you know, the current government has various missions to the United States to speak to people in the diaspora. I think that there has to be lobbying from your end to basically say that not only that we can, you have mentioned that Uganda, Western Union quite a bit. The diaspora has been, I see that the United States statistics, I think it's basically saying that the diaspora contribute about 200 million Belize dollars to the economy. I think it's more than that. It's more like $500 million that you guys that you guys contribute. When people send barrel, who they put on, where is there anybody keeping track of that statistics?
Yeah,
When one minister flying with $50,000 or $100,000 unbeknown to anybody,
right.
That's not even a statistic. It's a crime.
So. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Thank
Thank you, Mr. for allowing me.
Go ahead,
Mr.
Leonard.
Chairman? Okay.
Yeah, man.
On that same point that Mr. Mabit was just making reference to, I would like to say that Belizeans, if they were given opportunities or incentives by the government, just like how we can get the foreigners to come in and we give them incentives and they take their incentives and they move on and be successful, and as soon as which is what Williamson Industry did. I remember doing some work for them. They got their concession, and when their time was up, they wanted a revised concession that would give them additional benefits. That, in other words, they didn't want to contribute any of their earned money to the economy of the country. They just wanted the labor force in the country to contribute cheap labor and for them to be able to produce their goods and market it outside. But because they had a tax holiday, they weren't actually contributing to the local economy any of their gains, other than the salary to the employees.
And go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go. All right, you're not finished. Go ahead.
No, sorry, I wasn't. As a result, we find that a lot of Belizean people would like to come home and retire. Some who are Social Security, others who have retirement funds, others who have personal cash flow that they can invest in business here in Belize. But there's no assurance that them getting involved in Belize, other than just for patriotic reasons, is a panacea. And as a result, a lot of people decide, you know what, I don't want to come to Belize with all of what I hear going on in Belize, and they start take the negative tack, like Mr. Chairman always referred to. And in self-preservation mode, they say, well, I'd rather just hang around here in America, get old, sit down and watch the walls instead of invest my money in a productive thing to help myself and my country.
You know,
And that's unfortunate.
you brought up an excellent example. Williamson. Williamson hired, and George gave the figure about what 800 people, if not more. Yeah. But anyway, you're muted, George. Yeah.
Yeah. 700 to 800 people, Mike. G. Mike.
800 people. What I'm saying, what they did the other day, I heard Social Security was upset because their uniforms did not come in from Trinidad yet. Every year, close to school time, bus loads go to Melchor to buy uniforms for their school children. You have the police, you have the Coast Guard, you have the BDF, you got you got a traffic department. Everybody uses uniforms. All those uniforms are brought in. This would be an excellent opportunity. What does it take? A few sewing machines. A lot of the people are already trained how to sew and know how to sew. They were in supervisory positions. What would it take for 6 or 7 diasporans getting together and say, let us open a Williamson? And the government should facilitate it. They should, yes, indeed, give some concessions, the same they would give to the foreigners. And I also think that with foreign investment like that, because they get a tax holiday until they recover every penny that they invest. Therefore, when they leave, they should take nothing with them because the government has bought that, not them. So when Williamson went, Williamson should not have taken every machine, needle, and piece of thread they had, including the fucking building. They should not have been able to do that. So we get back to a point that you guys were making, which I totally agree with. Poor administration, poor governance, corruption. And so I think we can all...
Mr. Chairman,
conclude.
Williamson didn't really want to leave, They were just trying to play a high stakes game with the government. They wanted the government to provide them with free electricity, provide them with a whole hell of a lot of other stuff far and beyond the original concession. Just because at that time the government had some dealings that they were coming into the electrical company.
Given
and
that,
so they were power playing.
Given that,
they decided,
that they should have left butt naked, just like how they come. You see what I'm saying?
Mr. Chair, on a proactive side, one of my colleagues from the Bahamas, or a couple of them really, were echoing to me that there's a public policy in the Bahamas, and I believe to some extent in Grand Cayman, where any foreign investment has to have the participation of locals.
We have it here too.
So that only they provide labor. So I believe that the figure in the Bahamas is 15%. So if you are coming to invest $100 million, then 15 million, you have to make 15 million available to local populations. So you see, that's a public policy that is saying that in terms of benefits derived, small people and business people in these areas of investment, foreign investment, will come away with dividends at the end of the day. So it's not only cheap labor. So, there are formulas to work through, and what you really need is a discipline to implement what you have pronounced on in terms of public policy. If you were, Mr. Chairman, and you use the word and you're insinuating that when me and Mr. Brackett speak, it's from a dark place. And as I said, I have to respect your perspective, but it's not a dark place. If the house is on fire, we can't say that you can go to sleep. If the house is on fire, you have to call the fire engine. All right? So the point that I'm making is that you have to realize that for you to derive a solution, you have to acknowledge where the problem is. I think that if us gentlemen, I want to read Plan Belize, the current government did a manifesto and they did what they're calling Plan Belize, which is quote unquote a plan. It's not really a plan, it's really a strategy, to be technical. If you read the PUP manifesto and you read Plan Belize, it's a blueprint for prosperity. Are they implementing Plan Belize? No. Did George Marvitt expect that they would? Not really. I think if we can go beyond rhetoric to reality and seriousness, we could transform this country from where it is,
To
which
where
is
it
not
can
a
be.
good place, to a place where in 5 or 10 years, our children and grandchildren will live a much better quality of life than we have generally.
Let me
Mr.
s-
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Sorry.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Piggybacking on Mr. Marvitt's last statement, if the loss of Williamson Industry as an item that we were just kicking around just now is not just the loss of that company money that they could have brought toward treasury. It's also the loss of those people that are unemployed as a result, who are not buying and selling, or who are not transacting or moving money in their homes and in their villages along that road, and those who are coming from Belize City also, because Williamson Industry hired a cross section of people. Like we said, they were trained. So if somebody comes in now with a new idea of putting up another sewing factory, maybe not as big as Williamson, or maybe targeted for those massive export, but for local purposes, you know, some of those people can be re-employed. So some cash flow can go back into some of those villages or some of those households, and that will boost the economy. And it will also boost what Mr. Marvitt had earlier stipulated as the threshold for determining the richness of a nation. It's a lack of job opportunity for these women and many other men. We have a lot of kids coming out of school at different levels, and the government can't employ them all. So why not open up the economy and facilitate the development of industries and let the economy, the facilitation of an open economy by the government produce these jobs that will eventually produce a bigger pie for the government to get a bigger tax base,
Yeah, I
and
think
for our poverty rate to reduce.
a lot of it is stating the obvious. I like your
Obvious, but
I
who is
like to
doing anything about it? As obvious as it is.
I like to go back to what George said, that if the house is on fire, you call a fire engine. I'm saying yes. I understand you call a fire engine if the house is on fire. I just don't think the house is on fire. That's all I'm saying. Um, so I think that we're to the point where we play with matches. I could say that, but we could turn it around. I remember when they started flying planes, the small planes, out of the Philip Gorson Airport. And I'm saying, how really stupid can that be? Because you know what? I remember I went to Cuba. And when you get to Cuba, if you fly into Havana and you go into a destination, you have to spend at least a day in Havana. It's a simple, logical reason for that you spend some money in Havana.
Mm.
Why would they have done that when there are taxis that make money from the airport to the small airport? Instead, they should have been setting up things along the way. I see them do it now on Mahogany Street, where they set up these shops for I think the tourism department is doing it for people to sell these things and whatnot. This, I think, is what they should have been doing. Every now and again, the taxi pull in, come on gas station with at least supermarket kind of setting with some stuff around for get some gas, even if they don't need no gas, so that the tourists could stop and take a look around and buy some things. I'm saying that what we need is some creative thinking. Um, I would hope we don't spend all of our time lamenting, because we can
Well,
find a lot wrong. We need
well,
to
well,
start. We need to move towards fixing it. Go ahead, Sam. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah, yeah. As I said, you guys on numerical problem analysis. We obviously have to talk about that. But I want to go to Wayne. Wayne is still with us. I
Yeah.
want to go with Wayne. I want to go to Wayne. Um, there's a narrative that goes based on Maslow's pyramid of needs. That at the very base of the pyramid, people struggle for food and
Mhm.
shelter and clothing. One tier up, they're struggling for education and healthcare. Everybody want to get their child for complete primary school, or most people do, and then they want to go to high school. One level up, when you reach a certain standard of living, you start to appreciate art. You want to go to Bliss. You want to go watch basketball, arts and leisure. And at the top, based on Maslow's pyramid of needs, this is where you get into wanting to run the nation. You get politically conscious. You get spiritually conscious generally. Where I see Maslow's pyramid of needs kind of needs some modification is that people are very, very spiritual, even at the lower level. In fact, I think our people are very, very vulnerable to what I consider to be some of these foreign preachers, um, whom basically exploit the naivety of our people. And so I wanted to ask Wayne, in terms of the spiritual side of things, Wayne, um, where do you see our people um, now relative to where they were? You said 20 years in a vacuum, and then there's even more. Yeah, you left Six Farm. Afraid to say it. Well, left Six Farm about 40 years ago. How
Yes.
do you evaluate that?
Well, when it comes to where we are spiritually, and I'm again coming back to my whole philosophy. When my thinking change, then change begins, right? Because I got
Right.
to first start with my thinking changing, right? And a lot of what have happened, not just with the diaspora, Belizean diaspora, but as far as where we are in this world right now, as far as people of color, there is so much that we've been indoctrinated with, whitewashed with, that need to be totally gone. Because what we believe, I believe, determines how we behave. And I
Mhm.
want to agree with
Mhm.
you that when it comes to exploitation in people's belief system, where people believe stuff that, for me, as far as where I'm at right now, where I've evolved in my own spiritual understanding, a lot of the stuff that was then for me is not the same way I think today.
All right.
So, and I speak from where I'm at right now. So, I am a, like I said, I'm a life coach. I'm a transformational teacher. I teach spiritual principles, but not so much spiritual principles as one would talk about, say, church. I treat spiritual principles reference to the fact that G Mike and I were talking earlier about the fact that there is a supreme being, there is an infinite source, there is a creator that breeds each and every one of us, right? And before Buddhism or Christianity or Islam or anything was, the source was. And that's where I start. And reference to what people believe, like you said earlier, it seems like a lot of times people who are like on the lower spectrum are being exploited with the way they think. Because honestly, as a people, I really believe that. I mean, we're an amazing people. Belizeans, starting right there in Belize, we're some of the richest people, and I truly advocate Belize. All the people that I've worked with across the United States that I'm working with right now, they know that a part of my passion and my desire is truly make a greater contribution to my own country. And reference to development, I mean, from east to west, the clients that I work with who are considered dream builders are people who are envisioning making a difference in the world. I get a chance to work with these people. I get a chance to work with these people, coaching them into the life they would love to live, right? So, as far as the spirituality in Belize, honestly, the Wayne that left Belize is not the same Wayne that is rare right now, reference to even where I was spiritually then. My evolution, my transformation is different.
You know, what interesting that you said, and we look for close, fellas, almost 9, right? You said that these people, and some of them are wealthy people you speak of, that's searching for a better way of life. And I wanted to refer to George Mavis' pyramid of needs. And it's funny that everybody at every level really have their own needs and think that their needs is so important that if they don't get that need fulfilled, they're not successful. The ones at the base, yes, get exploited, and they will always be. Can they not pull themselves up by the bootstrap at some point and step up that ladder a little piece at a time? And is that not where maybe the problem is, that they are not making the effort to do so?
Not without a wench or
I'm a
something to hear them.
I'm a strong advocate of not just giving a man a fish, but teaching a man to fish. Because I can give handouts,
Right,
and I can maybe feed you today.
right.
But I'm a firm believer of empowering you to go from dependence to independence to interdependence. Because I believe no matter what part of the spectrum you're on, you can actually make a difference in changing where you are.
Of course, and it's up to you.
It's up to you.
Yeah,
But again, it's a mindset again. But what I would say that PUP, UDP, any leadership political people, they would prefer leave the people in a state of dependence rather than take them to a place of independence.
Excellent.
And then interdependence, because I'm saying that if I become, then I should reach back and help those where I'm from. I mean, I grew up at Church Street, one of the worst places that people have classified, Church Street, Kinnell Side. And I can tell you, I can only speak from my own life experience. This year, I have 2 of my nephews finished grad school. One of them that finished grad school completed CPA. My other nephew did his master's in taxation this year. He finished his CPA 2 years ago. My niece just finished college in Florida. She got student of the year in Florida. She's an engineer, a civil engineer.
Wow.
Following the steps of my little brother. My youngest brother went to Cal State Long Beach, civil engineer. He finished school, came back to Belize. He has worked nowhere else but Belize.
Wow. Beautiful.
I can tell you because I'm very passionate about Belize and the influence that I have. I know I do a work with a lot of people, but my first line of mentorship and impact are my siblings.
Fellas, we're past 9 o'clock. I want to thank you all for showing up this evening. Wayne, thanks for being our guest and giving us some input. The thing with one more thing before I go, the flyers on the screen, if you can see it. I want to say too that some of the people with that fish, when you're getting a fish for a day, then come back the next day, and the next day, and the next day. We try not to be like that. I try to teach my kids, you know what? Just because somebody gives something one time, you have the right to expect it, or you should even, and maybe if you could get something, get it without somebody give you, you at least know how to do it, and next time you don't have to reach your hand out every time. So while I'm a big part of what I do is to ask others to help us, to help those who are really in need. It goes with a message, and most of what I try to pass on goes with a condition that you help yourself somehow along the line. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure.
Give me a quick
Mr. Brown.
second, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
George, could I get your number so that I could send you a message on WhatsApp?
Yeah, man. 623-2512.
623-2512.
Yes, sir.
All right. So I definitely want to see you Saturday.
All right.
And you can't send Leonard no message on WhatsApp, but you could reach him on Messenger. Leonard, what school you gone?
Technical.
Technical too?
1969.
There's a
Graduate of
technical graduate for you,
1969.
boy.
Wow.
So
Three of
George,
the panel members them are from technical, no?
Yeah.
George, make sure you give Leonard some information for the Zoom meeting Saturday.
All right.
Well, see,
What time the meeting?
11 o'clock Belize time.
All right. Very good.
Because the folks on the East Coast, yeah, be 12, 11, 10, 9 o'clock. They're up on the West Coast. To try to catch everybody.
What is that meeting, sir?
It's some alumni of Belize Technical College looking at what contribution we can make. And it's not just because some of the folks are in Belize as well, right?
Mhm.
Right there. But this year in particular, just after me and Javier and Egbert were the top, Mr. Morrison died.
Mm-hmm.
And these are people who've actually made impact on our lives, and they have made such an impact that I think that the legacy goes on.
Mhm.
you want to reach back and help.
Yes.
Good initiative. I hope you guys get somewhere with it. And again, these are the ways that the diaspora can contribute to Belize and be involved in the building of Belize. It doesn't have to be running for office. In fact, I think running for office is the least way you can contribute. But that's just
Why
my
don't you
opinion.
why don't you tell Mr. Shine that?
Sir, Mr. Shine is not on the forum. He's not with us tonight.
No, they're running for office, sir. They're running for office.
Yeah, but I know anybody. I had to
I'm just
talk,
messing
I
around
just
with
talked to
Mr.
three
Chairman. You
people
know
now.
that.
Yeah, I know that. I know indeed.
Well, it's good to see Wayne. I'm glad he made it to the forum tonight, and I hope we have him back more often than not. I think this has been a very constructive meeting. Mr. Chairman has been erudite and very effective in keeping us on track. And of course, Mr. Brackett, it's no coincidence that we see things very much alike, and it's not conspiracy, it's synergy.
Even though we're from different parties, yes, sir? That shouldn't be possible, huh?
Yeah, you two should join the PUP.
There goes your clapping, Mr.
CY,
Chairman.
thank you, CY. Thank you for putting up the flyer, guys. Remember this thing is coming up the 18th of December. And CY, I'm sending you a more updated flyer. So if you get a chance, grab that one for me. They're on your WhatsApp, right, guys? Thanks a lot, George.
God bless.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
next week Wednesday again, right? Same
Yes,
time,
sir.
same place. We're out.
Very good.
Respect.
Good night, sir.